Welcome to Dirty Story Night. Welcome to Dirty Story Night. This is where we take characters and people that you love and put them in filthy, awful, disgusting situations and make you ashamed of us. Thankfully, our parents' site is not ashamed of us. It's All But Them Presents, found at IABDpresents.com. You can follow them on social media at IABDpresents.com on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's a content network based in Columbus, Ohio of podcast, written work, video, and more. So lots of really cool things on here. This week I'd like to highlight the gem in our hat, the feather in our clam, or something to that regard. It's All But Them Radio Hour, which is our comedy scripted take on radio serials told with modern sensibilities, usually geeky. There's like a zombie apocalypse one, there's a female superhero named the Top-Notch Tangler, there's a couple of porn star detectives, there's a sci-fi spoof, there's some confirmed bachelors, Packer and Ratcliffe, who like to time travel and are immortal. So, oh yeah, and there's Daniel Kravitz's Chosen One, which is pretty cool too, fighting armies of darkness and all that sort of thing. Now in the meantime, I'd like you to enjoy Dirty Story Night, and this is going to be my story. So, I hope you like it.
What the fresh hell is that?
Okay, Dan, sit down.
You didn't see what we just saw.
What'd you see?
I don't know.
This is good stuff.
Would you like to get back to it? Because I don't think you're at it anymore.
Okay. Oh my god, what the fuck is that?
How do we get to a video?
Are you guys into vaginas
No.
again?
Oh god, no. This is way beyond that. Thank you for inviting me, he said shyly, looking over at the beautiful woman whose hand he held. Michael couldn't believe his luck. Nancy was a gorgeous, vivacious woman, 5'7", slender, long, silky red hair, beautiful green eyes, and just the right smattering of freckles across her face. She was everything Michael had ever dreamed of and more. His only hesitation was that he had met her on Craigslist. I mean, he'd heard there were some nasty people on Craigslist who lured others into meeting them and then killed them. He hoped Nancy wasn't that type of monster. But when he saw her picture, he had to take a chance. Given this was their fourth date, Michael thought he was pretty safe. He'd wisely met Nancy in a public place the first time, and by now they'd spent many pleasant hours in one another's company, talking and laughing and getting to know each other. Sure, how much could you really know someone in only a couple of weeks? But Michael trusted her. Of course, said Nancy, smiling back at Michael. This is a large part of who I am, and if we're going to go any further, I think I need to share it with you. I'd share anything with you, blurted out Michael. Then he blushed, but her encouraging grin let him know he hadn't gone too far. What we're about to do can be strenuous, said Nancy. Would you like to grab a Monster energy drink or something before we go in?
I get it.
No thanks, I can't handle those things. They really turn me into a whole other person, said Michael. Haha, fair enough, here we are, said Nancy. They stopped outside a huge Gothic cathedral dotted with monstrous gargoyles that Michael could have sworn he saw move in the shadows, but maybe it was just a trick of the light. For a moment, looking at Nancy's pale skin against the moonlight in front of the ornate dark building, Michael wondered if maybe she was a vampire, and he was being led in to be slaughtered among her fellow bloodsuckers. After all, he had only met Nancy at night so far. Oh wait, no, they'd stayed up till the sun came out that first night, and she hadn't turned into ashes, so she's not a vampire. Besides, they didn't exist. No, we haven't had enough monster fake-outs yet. Are you ready? Asked Nancy. For you, always, said Michael. She opened the door and in they went. The inside was like a church, except instead of pews, most of the room was empty. People of all ages, shapes, colors, and heights dotted the room, roughly facing the center, though they were scattered, not in a circle. In the middle was a pattern on the carpet that looked like a big white dinner plate. This was reinforced by the image of the fork and knife painted onto the carpet. We're just in time, said Nancy. She and Michael took their place near the edge as a woman stepped to the rim of the plate and began intoning. We come to seek your guidance and to worship you, oh flying spaghetti monster. Come and bless us with your wisdom and life-giving sauce. This is weird, thought Michael, just before the floor began to shake. The place glowed with a brilliant yellow light and a massive mass appeared on it. It was a mess of noodles with meatballs the size of those exercise ball chairs, all covered in a red sauce that smelled delicious from where Michael stood, the scent of oregano and parsley filling the air. He licked his lips. Michael turned to Nancy. "Oh, you're a pastafarian, yes," said Nancy. This time she was the shy one. "What do you think?" "I like spaghetti. I'm in," said Michael. "Thank you for appearing to us, O flying spaghetti monster," said the priest. "Now, congregation, let us disrobe and receive our Lord's blessing." "Disrobe?" Michael turned to ask Nancy, but she was already naked. Seeing her gorgeous breast with the exact same freckle pattern as her face, Michael quickly began taking off his shirt too. He wasn't entirely sure what was going on, but he wasn't going to pass up any opportunity to see Nancy this way, smiling, happy, nude. That's when Michael felt the tendrils. The spaghetti... The spaghetti snaked off of the plate in all directions, noodles heading for each person gathered. 6 or 7 came at Michael. At first, they just lightly caressed his body, running over it, probing it. The noodles were slightly warm, but not hot. And while they briefly touched tickle points, it mostly felt good. Michael had never been molested by pasta before. But despite being a little bit slimy, it wasn't a bad sensation. Then the noodles suddenly sprang to life with greater urgency. One shut up Michael's butthole with only a little marinara for lube. It hurt, like being impaled by a giant cock that was only at half-mast, but was getting crammed in anyway. When he opened his mouth to howl in protest, a tendril rammed itself inside and flew down his throat, gagging him. Oh. More noodles grabbed Michael's wrists and ankles. He was pulled towards the flying spaghetti monster who was floating above the plate, now pulsating. Michael snuck a glance over at Nancy, who appeared enraptured while penetrated in her mouth, anal, and vaginal cavities. She was writhing in pleasure, enjoying the sensation as other spaghetti noodles wrapped around and gently squeezed her breasts, the sauce spattering her and adding to the freckles Michael loved so much, distracting him momentarily. The noodle in his ass was now going in and out, and it hit his prostate. It was like a lever that had never been switched on, and Michael was cranked full blast, and he doubled over in joyous agony. This was better than any sex he'd ever experienced, and now Michael understood what was going on and gave himself over to the experience. Approaching the mass, Michael watched each and every person get swallowed up into the monster and wondered what awaited him inside. He wasn't kept in suspense for long. He was surrounded on either side by 2 meatballs, which was intimidating at first. Would they pound him, smother him, crush him, make him hang out with an asshole shake and judgmental order of fries? But no, Nancy showed him.
Yes. I got it.
I'll get you a little meatball.
But no, Nancy showed him what to do. She reached out to a meatball and wrapped herself around it sensuously, melting into it. If the spaghetti was the arms, legs, hands, and feet and cock of the flying spaghetti monster, the meatballs were its warm, supple body. Now Michael had something comfortable to brace against as he was reamed in the ass and the mouth over and over again in the strangest gangbang he'd ever been a part of. And believe me, he'd been a part of some seriously strange gangbangs. He picked up chicks on Craigslist, remember? So the pulsing within the flying spaghetti monster began to change. It felt like it was building to a climax, and so was Michael. A hollow tendril of spaghetti wrapped itself around his penis and sucked better than any girl Michael had ever hooked up with, except that one really attractive one he accidentally got home after drinking too much one night in college, and he stalked him for a month afterwards. But the climax was intense. Tomato sauce poured down Michael's throat and up his butt. The thick liquid hotter than anything he'd felt from the monster yet, but short of scalding. Some of it leaked around his orifices, some got up his nose, mixing with his own spit, mucus, and even a little fecal matter, making a total mess.
It happened.
Jokes, what's wrong with you?
Cheers.
At the same time, another strand of spaghetti began tickling his balls, and Michael arched against the meatball, sinking into it. His penis pumped out more jizz than he probably ever expelled before, sucked up greedily by the hollow noodle, not spilling a drop.
I challenge.
The flying spaghetti monster gently lowered the congregants to the ground, leaving them lying in puddles of chunky marinara, each one spent. Nancy's eyes fluttered, barely opening, ecstasy all over her face, along with the red sauce. Michael slowly raised up himself and walked over to her, beholding her glorious, smeared, slightly garlicky body. "Did you like it?" she asked hopefully, though tired. "Babe," he said, reaching down and wiping a little sauce off her cheek, then sticking his finger in his mouth and slurping it down. "The best thing ever. Consider me a convert."
I'm suddenly hungry. Morning.
There's lots of food.
Hungry.
Hungry?
I'm hungry.